Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Anxiety Toolbox Session 2. A quick reminder that you can find the workbook on the EBC website linked below. I would recommend having the printout, and if you need a printout, please stop by our office and we can provide you with a physical copy. So today's agenda, we are going to quickly review the CBT model and homework, discover and bring awareness to how our thoughts impact anxiety, discuss different styles of unhelpful thinking in which we all engage, and we're going to talk about how to identify these unhelpful thoughts and start to make changes to our thinking patterns. So first, we are going to take a thermometer reading of our current anxiety level. This was something we did in session 1. So on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being very low to non-existent and 10 being the most severe anxiety you've experienced, where are you right now? I want you to go ahead and jot that number down. Now, let's take some deep breaths. Taking a deep breath through our nose, counting in our mind, 1, 2, 3, 4. Imagine the air we breathe is filling our stomach, holding for a count of 1, 2, then breathing out through our mouth for 1, 2, 3, 4. And take a pause before starting again. Let's all try that again. So breathing in for a count of 1, 2, 3, 4, holding for a count of 1, 2, and breathing out for a count of 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, one more time. Let's try it. Breathing in for a count of 1, 2, 3, 4, holding for a count of 1, 2, and breathing out for a count of 1, 2, 3, 4. So now let's go ahead and take a new thermometer reading. Please rate your current level of anxiety on a scale of 1, very low to none, to 10, which is most severe. I want you to see if you notice a shift in your numbers. So last week, we discussed the ways in which our thoughts, feelings, physical sensations, and behaviors interact. And we used this cognitive behavioral model, CBT worksheet. Your homework was to complete one of the worksheets. I'm wondering if there was any questions or challenges that came up while attempting to complete this assignment. So I can think of some potential common challenges. For example, what happens if I don't remember what happened? So a great way to work on that is to try to take some notes on what happened as soon as possible. We usually have our cell phones with us, so pulling up the notes section or another app that you like to write in, you can just jot down some notes in there so you can look at them later in the day. Another challenge I think might be common is I couldn't think of anything to put in those sections, the physical, cognitive, emotional, and behavioral. So if that was something that came up, I want you to take a minute to think about how you might feel, think, or act in these situations. And lastly, I hear that a common challenge could be I felt too anxious to write it down or even think about what happened. In this case, practice deep breathing before you even engage. Remind yourself why you want to do it. For example, I know it's good for my mind, so I'm going to do it, even though it's tough, it's hard. So it's okay if you had some difficulties completing this homework assignment. This is a learning process, and the more exposure you have to it, the more comfortable you will feel, and the more skills that you have, again, the more comfortable you will feel doing this. You were also asked to practice deep breathing, something we did right when we started today. And I'm hoping that was something that was more easily done than possibly the model worksheet, CBT model worksheet. So we're going to transition into exploring our anxious thought processes next. So now that we've looked at interactions among thoughts, emotions, and feelings, we are really going to focus on that thought piece. Our thoughts can be conscious, intentional, and or purposeful. So for example, like when you're purposefully working on a homework assignment and thinking about the content that is there, or our thoughts can be automatic, like a reflex. Automatic thoughts are the thoughts or images that automatically pop into our heads. We don't choose for them to really happen, they just do. So for example, when you might be purposely working on your homework, when a automatic thought pops up that, hey, I need to clean my room or text a friend or call my mom, these automatic thoughts can be helpful or unhelpful. If automatic thoughts distract you from what you're trying to do and accomplish, and you're unable to refocus on your homework, for example, they're not really that helpful. Sometimes automatic thoughts can impact the way we feel or the way we think about things. We're going to really hone in on these automatic thoughts, particularly the unhelpful ones, because those are the ones that are likely to make our anxieties worse. So let's talk about some examples of automatic thoughts and some feelings that might go with them. Imagine that you notice your heart rate is accelerated. You might have the thought, my heart is racing. Something must be wrong with me. Or you might have the thought, my heart is racing. I'm so excited. Can you see how the same internal experience or stimulus, heart racing, can result in different thoughts? What feeling do you think you would have if you had the thought, my heart is racing, something must be wrong with me? On the other hand, what feelings do you think you might have if you had the thought, my heart is racing, I'm so excited? Take a second to think about those two examples. Can you see how different thoughts can provoke different feelings? So here's another example. This time our thoughts are in response to an external stimulus. Imagine you're walking here on campus and someone doesn't acknowledge you when you say hi. You might have the thought, they must not like me. Or you may have the thought, maybe they didn't hear me. Can you see how these two different thoughts might elicit different emotional responses? You may feel hurt if you think they don't like you, or you might brush it off and think they didn't hear you. So we're going to consider the sample situation in the CBT model worksheet. The diagram that we looked at last week on page 19 of your workbook, the example of being invited to a party. The person had the thought, no one will like me because I'm so socially awkward. How might that impact their feelings or behaviors? So, considering everything we've just talked about, let's take a look at the anxiety-provoking situation from the homework assignment. Remember when we talked about how thoughts, feelings, and behaviors all interact? Well, our automatic thoughts can impact the way we feel or the way we think about things. I want you to take a look at your homework or use the example from your workbook and think about whether it's possible that any of the thoughts listed were unhelpful automatic thoughts. So as we keep practicing these tools and increasing our awareness, you may notice some patterns in your thoughts. Some types of thoughts happen more than others. And we're going to be talking about common patterns people may experience. When we look at automatic thoughts, we can place them in a number of common categories or styles of thinking in which mostly everyone engages. When I say everyone, I mean everyone, not just people who struggle with anxiety. These ways of thinking are so common, in fact, that we have names for them. One of the most common used styles of thinking is what we call catastrophizing. This is when your thoughts snowball and you go to worst case scenario. For example, you start with the thought, I'm going to fail this test. And that leads to the thought, if I fail the test, I fail the class. And then I'll fail out of EBC and never graduate. And then I'll never get a good job. And finally, I'll be homeless and unable to support myself. Do you notice how that went downhill pretty quickly? Can anyone relate? So that's just one example of many. You can go ahead and turn to page 20 in your workbook and take a look at the different thinking styles, and we can review them together also. So we have all or nothing, black and white thinking. You're seeing things in extremes and not seeing the gray areas. For example, if I'm not perfect, I have failed. A mental filter or selective evidence is you're only noticing things that confirm what you already believe. This can foster optimism or pessimism about the world. Jumping to conclusions, mind reading. So this is an inaccurate belief that we know what others are thinking or feeling. For example, my friend is frowning. That means they must hate me. We have overgeneralization, drawing broad conclusions from a single event. I got a bad grade on my exam, so I'm stupid and a failure. Disqualifying the positive, so discounting the good things that have happened for some reason. For example, my boss said I did a good job, but they were just being nice. Magnification and minimization. So blowing things out of proportion or inappropriately minimizing their importance. Rigid thinking, using critical words like should or must, resulting in a feeling of guilt and shame, resentment, and anger. Emotional reasoning, taking feelings as facts. I feel it, so it must be true. Labeling and mislabeling, assigning value to ourselves and others based on one instance, one experience. Personalization, blaming oneself or taking things personally without logical reason. So now that you have a sense of what each of these thinking styles is, I want you to take a minute to read over the list on your own. Go through the styles of thinking and start to identify, circle, star, highlight them, the ones you tend to use. This may include all of them, or maybe just a few. So now let's practice identifying unhelpful thinking patterns by returning to that CBT model worksheet of the party situation on page 19. What do you think are some of the unhelpful thinking styles this person might have had? Write those down near the cognitive box. So I want you to turn back to your independent practice again. Do any of the thoughts you wrote down in your cognitive box of your practice fit into one or more of these unhelpful categories? Go ahead and write down the unhelpful thinking pattern and thinking style near the corresponding thought in the cognitive box on your practice sheet. These unhelpful thinking patterns can trigger other anxiety symptoms. In this series, we focus on the interactions between our thoughts, feelings, behaviors, and physical symptoms, and talk about how they impact one another. Each one of these symptoms, unhelpful thoughts included, can be triggers for other symptoms. So let's talk about common triggers. Triggers can be external events, for example, a test, or internal stimuli, for example, lightheadedness or racing heart, that lead to our increase in anxiety symptoms. Having one symptom can be a trigger for other symptoms. For example, I just mentioned lightheadedness, which is a symptom of anxiety, like we talked about last week. But lightheadedness can also be a trigger for other anxiety symptoms, like anxious thoughts or behaviors. If you recognize and understand your triggers, you often can intervene early before your anxiety feels too overwhelming. So looking at page 21 in your workbook, which will help you learn about common anxiety triggers, notice there are several categories listed at the top of the page to help prompt you to identify some of your own triggers. Keep in mind that your triggers may or may not fit in these categories. Some examples of triggers included actual events, being invited to a party, physical sensations, racing heart, or thoughts, worrying about the health and safety of others. So pause the video and take some time to complete this worksheet, identifying triggers you have noticed yourself experiencing. Please know if you don't finish this worksheet, that's okay. This is going to be part of our continued practice over the next week. So let's go ahead and wrap up for today. We continued to break down the anxiety process. We discussed automatic thoughts and different styles of unhelpful thinking. We also started to identify some of the triggers you may experience. Remember, recognition of anxiety symptoms and awareness of your patterns are significant initial steps in managing anxiety. This means that completing the CBT model worksheet is a tool for you. It's a thinking tool that requires you to slow down, to recognize the triggers, as well as detangle the symptoms you're feeling. Getting better at this thinking process can help you make decisions about when to avoid and when to confront anxiety-provoking situations so you get better at coping with your symptoms. It can also help you prevent some anxiety symptoms from occurring or getting as overwhelming. So we're going to end with another relaxation exercise called progressive muscle relaxation, or PMR. But before we do this, let's take our current anxiety thermometer reading, the scale of 1 to 10. Where are you right now? Go ahead and write that number down. Like deep breathing, PMR is another direct way to address anxiety symptoms, especially physical symptoms related to fight, flight, or freeze. Remember, by addressing our physical symptoms directly, you are freeing up mental energy to address other symptoms, such as anxious thoughts and behaviors. Progressive muscle relaxation is an exercise that reduces stress and anxiety in our body through your slowly tensing and relaxing each muscle group. The theory behind this exercise is that you cannot have feelings of relaxation and warm well-being in your body and at the same time experience anxiety symptoms. So with practice, you will become more aware of when you're experiencing tension and have a tool to help you relax. For those of you who experience anxiety somatically in your body, stress can lead to headaches, stomach aches, back pain, stiff neck. PMR may be the right tool for you. It also has a great mindfulness tool for staying in your body, in the present, so you're not thinking about the past or projecting to the future. Okay, during this exercise, you will tense each muscle group, but not to the point of strain, obviously. Pay special attention to the feeling of tension in each muscle group and the feeling of relaxation when you release that tension. If you have any injuries or pain, you can skip those affected areas. If you're not sure it's safe for you to do this exercise due to health issues, just do some deep breathing right now and check in with your medical professional about doing the progressive muscle relaxation for the future. So let's go ahead and begin. I want you to sit back in your chair, or if you're at home, lie down in a comfortable position. Close your eyes if you're comfortable doing so. If not, soften your gaze on a fixed point. Start by taking a slow, deep breath and noticing the feeling of air filling your lungs. Hold your breath for a few seconds. 1, 2, 3. Release the breath slowly and let the tension leave your body. Now take another slow, deep breath and hold it. 1, 2, 3. Slowly release the air. Even slower now. Take another deep breath in. Fill your lungs. Hold the breath. 1, 2, 3. Slowly release the breath and imagine the feeling of tension leaving your body with each breath out. Following along as we progressively tense and release different muscle groups, let's start by clenching our fists tighter and tighter, but not to the point of pain. Hold. Steady the tension in your fists. It may also be in your wrists and forearms. As you hold those clenched fists, now let go and relax your hands. Feel the looseness in your hands and notice the contrast between the tension and the feeling of relaxation. Now bend your elbows and tense your biceps. Tense them along with your upper arms and shoulders as hard as you can and observe the feeling of tautness. Now relax your arms. Notice the feeling of relaxation in your hands, your arms, your shoulders. Notice how your arms feel limp and at ease. Okay, now let's turn our attention to our head. Wrinkle your forehead as tightly as you can. Hold. Now relax and allow your forehead to smooth out. Notice the release of tension. Now close your eyes, squint them tighter, feel the tension. Now relax your eyes, let them remain closed gently, comfortably. Notice them feeling relaxed. Now carefully roll your head to the right and feel any tension. Roll it to the left and notice any tightness. Bring your head back to neutral and feel your neck and head relax. Bring your head and jaw forward. Press your chin against your chest. Feel the tension in your face, your throat, and the back of your neck. Hold. Relax, allowing your head to return to a comfortable position. Let the relaxation deepen. Next, tense the muscles in your back by bringing your shoulders together behind you. Hold them tightly. Tense them as hard as you can without straining, and keep holding. Now let go. Release the tension from your back. Feel the tension slowly leaving your body and the new feeling of relaxation. Notice how different your body feels when you allow it to relax. Now shrug your shoulders up to your ears and hold. Then relax your shoulders. Drop them back and feel the relaxation spreading through your neck, your throat, and your shoulders. Give your body a chance to relax. Feel the comfort and the heaviness. Next, breathe in. Fill your lungs completely. Hold your breath. Notice the tension. Now exhale. Let the air hiss out and let your chest become loose. Continue relaxing, letting your breath come freely and gently. Next, tighten your butt or thighs. Squeeze the muscles as hard as you can and hold. Release. Feel the difference as you let go. Now let's move the attention to the calves and feet. Bend your feet up at the ankles, making your calves tense, and hold. Notice the tension. Relax. Now point your toes, creating tension in your shins, and hold. Relax again. Okay, finally, tense your entire body. Tense your feet, your legs, stomach, chest, arms, head, face, and neck. Tense hard, but without feeling pain. Hold the tension. Now relax. Feel the looseness and heaviness throughout the body as the relaxation deepens. Let go more and more. Experience the relaxation deepening. Pay attention to
I didn't get that.
Pay attention to the feeling of relaxation and how different it is from the feeling of tension. Begin to wake your body up by slowly moving your muscles. Adjust your arms, your legs, stretch your muscles, open your eyes when you're ready. Check in with yourself. How was that for you? I want you to go ahead and do another thermometer reading. Did you notice any change in your anxiety level? During this exercise, I want you to think about where you felt the most tension. And where did it feel the best to let the tension go? So now that we've done deep breathing and progressive muscle relaxation, there are other relaxation strategies listed in the workbook as well. You can find that you like some more than others. Keep practicing and find the ones that fit your style the best. So this concludes session 2 of our Anxiety Toolbox workshop. Between now and next week, pay attention to triggers and automatic thoughts that you experience. Use the CBT model worksheet to write down your thoughts, feelings, and sensations with the emphasis on unhelpful thinking patterns. Try to complete at least one worksheet before next week. You will use your completed worksheet for exercises in next week's session. Remember that building new skills takes time and practice, so keep practicing throughout the week. If you don't have the time to do a full body progressive muscle relaxation, pick the area of your body where you hold the most tension and practice tensing and releasing. Continue practicing deep breathing. Next week, we will be learning other ways to address automatic thoughts. We'll also be discussing grounding techniques, which can help you get calmer and more in the present moment. All right, see you next week.